Before we get in, here's what this breakdown really is doing. This video breaks down why Egg's identity reveal in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms isn't just a shocking twist, but the moment that retroactively reframes the entire story. We'll look at how the show hides the truth in plain sight, why Egg's relationship with Dunk is the real heart of the series, how Aerion functions as a warning rather than a simple villain, and why Egg's understanding of power makes him far more dangerous than he first appears.
No, they won't. If they do, they'll answer to my father. Let go of him.
From the very first episode, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is quietly misleading you, not in a cheap, dishonest way, but in a controlled, deliberate one. The show presents itself as a small, grounded story about a hedge knight and his sharp-tongued squire wandering through Westeros. No dragons, no thrones, no prophecies. Just survival, honor, and bad luck. But that simplicity is a disguise, because Egg was never meant to be read as just a clever kid tagging along with Dunk. He was always something else. And Episode 3 finally makes that impossible to ignore. When Dunk strikes Prince Aegon in public, the scene lands with a kind of dread that doesn't need explanation. In Westeros, a knight attacking a prince isn't bravery, and it isn't justice. It's a death sentence. Everyone there understands that immediately. Aerion understands it most of all, which is why his cruelty is so casual. He knows the system will protect him. Dunk, for all his strength and good intentions, has just crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. This is where the story should end, and that's exactly why it doesn't. Egg steps forward, speaks with authority, and orders the Kingsguard to stand down. They listen, not because Egg is persuasive, not because he's clever, but because, in that moment, the truth finally comes out. Egg is Prince Aegon Targaryen, son of Prince Maekar, and grandson of King Daeron II. When he calls Aerion brother, the entire power structure of the scene realigns instantly.
What's happened to your hair?
I cut it off, brother.
What makes this reveal work so well isn't shock value. It's recognition. Once you know who Egg is, the earlier episodes don't feel deceptive. They feel precise. The show wasn't hiding Egg's identity so much as testing whether you were paying attention. His accent never matched the background he claimed. His confidence went beyond street smarts. He understood social hierarchy, heraldry, and authority instinctively. These weren't things he learned by traveling with Dunk. They were things he was raised with. The strongest clue, though, was never intellectual. It was emotional. Egg's reaction to Aerion is deeply personal from the very beginning. He doesn't just disapprove of Aerion's cruelty, he recoils from it. There's resentment there, fear there, and something close to disgust. This isn't the response of a boy seeing injustice for the first time. It's the response of someone who has lived with it, who knows exactly how that kind of unchecked power behaves when no one is watching. That's where many interpretations of Egg go wrong. Egg isn't rejecting power by running away. He's studying it. Egg doesn't hate authority. He hates authority without accountability. He leaves the court not to escape being a prince, but to see what the world looks like when titles don't protect you. This distinction matters because it changes how we understand everything he does later. When Egg finally uses his authority to save Dunk, he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't agonize over the decision. He acts instantly and decisively because he understands exactly when power is justified and when it becomes abuse. That clarity is what separates him from Aerion. Aerion uses power because he can. His cruelty isn't strategic or meaningful. It's indulgent. He hurts people because the system allows him to, and because no one has ever taught him restraint. Egg, on the other hand, uses power only when restraint would become complicity. That single difference defines the entire moral argument of the show. Standing between these two brothers is Dunk. Dunk is not clever in a political sense. He doesn't understand court intrigue, bloodlines, or long-term strategy. But he understands right and wrong in a way that is almost painfully sincere. Dunk believes in knighthood even when reality keeps proving that belief naive. He protects people who can't protect themselves, even when it costs him. And most importantly, he does all of this without expecting a reward. That's why Egg stays with him. Dunk is what power looks like when it isn't inherited. He has no title, no lineage, and no safety net. Everything he has comes from choices, not birthright. For Egg, traveling with Dunk isn't an adventure, it's education. Egg is watching how people behave when they think no one important is around. He's seeing who bullies, who helps, and who stays silent. These are lessons no prince raised in a castle could ever learn. Episode 3 reinforces this idea with the introduction of Sir Robin Riesling. On the surface, Riesling appears to be a minor character, defined by the brutal story of how he lost his eye, but symbolically, he represents something crucial. Riesling is knighthood after damage. He's proof that violence leaves marks, even on those who survive it. Despite that, he treats Egg with kindness, suggesting that decency can endure even in broken systems. For Egg, this is another data point. Westeros isn't evil because everyone in it is cruel. It's cruel because its structures reward the wrong people and protect the wrong behaviors. Good men exist, but goodness alone doesn't control outcomes. Power does. Meanwhile, the quiet domestic scenes between Dunk and Egg do more work than any dramatic confrontation. Dunk teaching Egg how to sew a patch, sharing food, offering awkward encouragement. These moments matter because they show something Egg has likely never experienced before. He isn't being managed. He isn't being trained for a role. He's being treated like a person. Princes are prepared, not nurtured. They're shaped to rule, not to understand. Dunk's kindness isn't calculated, and that's exactly why it's transformative. Egg isn't learning what leadership looks like in theory. He's learning what it feels like to be protected by someone with no obligation to do so. This is what makes the reveal painful, not triumphant. When Dunk realizes who Egg really is, it doesn't feel like a reward. It feels like a fracture. Everything between them suddenly carries weight. Every threat Dunk ever made, every harsh word, every lesson now exists under the shadow of politics. Dunk didn't just befriend a boy. He unknowingly shaped a prince. And Egg knows that too. That's why he doesn't reveal himself sooner. He waits until Dunk's life is genuinely at risk. Not for comfort. Not for convenience. He understands that power used too early becomes entitlement, and power used too late becomes failure. So he chooses the exact moment where authority becomes justice. This is what makes Egg dangerous. Not because he wants power, but because he understands it. He knows when to step back and when to step in. He's learning from Dunk how authority should feel to those under it, and from Aerion what happens when authority goes unchecked. He's absorbing both lessons, quietly, without announcing his intentions. By the end of Episode 3, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms stops being a simple travel story and becomes something much sharper. It's no longer about where Dunk and Egg are going. It's about what Egg is becoming. We're not watching a prince hide from his destiny. We're watching a ruler being formed outside the system that usually creates tyrants. Dunk thinks he's teaching a squire how to survive. In reality, he's teaching a future king how not to rule through fear. That's the quiet genius of the story. No dragons. No grand speeches. Just a boy who chose to walk without protection long enough to understand what power really costs and when it truly matters. Egg was never just a squire. He was learning how to rule,